I'm so excited to be here in the Maldives, Hilda, to talk about this year's subject, which is lead.
Mhm.
And I remember just early on in my childhood, I was frustrated. It was very tough because every time that there was a game being played, or even if there was things going on in school, or if somebody was going to be the leader of a committee or something like that, or whatever it was, or if it was in church, it didn't matter. I was never elected to lead. I never got to lead. I wanted to, but no one wanted me to lead. Then later on, when I got to high school, where maybe this was even more important to me, it was very stressful. But then I accepted that I would be just a follower. I just fall in line. I was never number one. I was never number two. I was often not number three, but maybe I could get it into the groove
Now
at
you're gonna
least.
do pretty well there.
And that's kind of my point to this subject of lead, which is the subject for kicking off 2023. And that is that it became a benefit in my business later on.
Yeah.
Because when I had to work with people that was twice my age, I was 22, and many of the people were 42, which I thought back then was
Crazy old.
crazy old, yeah. And
Thank you so
some
much.
of them were 62, or 64. They were 66, three times my age.
Yeah.
And I was happy to be in the background, letting them lead, but being a follower as well as I would be their leader. And that helped me a lot. So to you, Hilda, this year is all about taking the leadership. It's all about leading. But what does that really mean to you?
Well, first of all, I do believe that everyone can lead. And very often I see that a lot of people, they undermine their skill of leading in the small and therefore don't necessarily see how they can lead in the big. Now, since you went into your background, for me, one of those defining things that I really do believe have shaped me as a person was during my years as growing up being a swimmer. And you know this story, from I was 7 to 15, I was very active within swimming. You don't necessarily see it today because of my broad shoulders and how tall I am. But I was very active. I was exercising between 6 and 10 times a week, competing twice a month, traveling inside of Norway, outside of Norway. And during this specific season of my life, I really learned how to take the lead, take leadership over my success and really work according to a plan. I really learned how to face challenging moments. I learned to face really difficult moments when I was set back. Sometimes it was like we were working out again and again and again, for a long time. And still, I wouldn't break my personal record. I was kind of like stuck. So I kind of learned a lot from that. I also learned how to handle victories and set new goals during that specific season. And when I started building my business in direct sales, I think that I could transfer a lot of those moments, a lot of those experiences into my business as well, because in this business, obviously, it's about taking charge yourself, leading yourself. And I think that this is first and foremost the most important principle when it comes to leadership. A lot of people believe that when you talk about leadership, it's about leading someone else, right? But you have to start leading with yourself. You have to step up to leadership yourself. So because I was quite used to listen to coaches, the coaches here in this business said you have to do a lot of meetings. So I did lots of meetings, sometimes a little bit too many meetings maybe on my own. But since I was working in an area where nobody else was working, I just thought, then I should organize the system. I put on the business presentations, I put on the opportunity meetings, the trainings, the different events. And through that, I was absolutely not perfect, but through doing a lot of action, eventually I created some results. And my point of telling this story, just as a start, here is really that even though you don't feel that you have the experience of being the leader in some area or in this specific area, I do believe that you have. You have the experience from maybe school. from sports activities like myself, maybe from being a parent, from being active in the church, or from other jobs that you are working or have been working within. And then secondly, you know, a lot of people, and this is one of the things that I feel so many people are stuck in, is that a lot of people happen to fall into the trap of wanting to be perfect from the very start. But nobody is perfect at the start. The only way you can actually create those results that you dream about is by acting and having a lot of activity. So I really believe that when you ask me that question, it's really in that story. It's really in those answers. It's about stepping up, deciding I'm going to lead myself. I'm going to set some extraordinary high targets for myself, something that I'm passionate about, something that I'm hungry to really achieve. And then secondly, deciding just go out and do it, you know, get over your fear, go out and perform, because it's through the activity that you do that you acquire the results.
Well, I've got some of those broad shoulders. I
At
think
least
that,
broader than I.
yeah, broader than you, but I can tell you that I've been trying to compete with you in swimming, and I've been beaten so badly. I mean, we were two people in the race. Hilde came in first. The water came in second, and then I came in. But that's okay.
That's okay.
Because from listening to you, sounds like you're a born leader. That you just got it from the start, that this was natural for you to lead.
Well, I do certainly not believe that anyone is born as a leader. I do believe that every leader is created over time. A leader is made over time. But I also do believe that it starts with hunger, right? Everything comes down to hunger. There is probably some personalities that are more prone to leadership than others, but I do believe that anyone can lead. You know, I've worked with so many different people over the years, you included, you know that as well. There is so many different type of personalities within Zinzino that is just doing extraordinary. That is not necessarily the person that you would automatically see as the leader first, but very often, you know, all of these people, they have this hunger within them where they've just decided that I'm going to do whatever it takes to actually get those skills that I need to be able to produce the results that I want. Now, as an example, for instance, for me, I learned a lot. Like I said, I had coaches during my years as a swimmer, and I was also used to that here. And when I saw that there was people that was kind of mentors that I could pick their brain, I would jump into that and I would start to pick their brain. I would observe what people were doing, how they were communicating, how they dressed, you know. And I became quite good at copying. I think you mentioned that as well for yourself, that you was good at copying, right? So we both started quite young. And one of the things that I quickly understood was that if I was ever going to be able to work with those people that were a lot older than I had to do something to compensate for my age. So quite early, I recruited people that was actually twice my age. So I compensated on how I dressed. I made sure that I would look very professional in every meeting, you know, so that the age gap would be a little bit smaller. Then I would compensate on the amount of time that I put into studies, because I really wanted them to feel that they were safe in my hands, you know. So I was studying the comp plan like crazy, the product, how to present the business. I remember sitting up late in the evening, you know, presenting for myself so that I knew how to present the plan in the best way. So it was just tons of practice that went into this. Absolutely not a born leader. What about you?
As I said in the opening, I realized that I didn't have leadership, or at least I thought that I didn't have leadership. But one of the things that I love with this company in Zinzino and what we do here is that I think that there is so many different styles of leadership that will actually work. You could be the one that is natural, taking charge of yourself, being self-disciplined, structured, getting everything perfectly down. Or you could be the one that is completely different, that blue personality that can't sit down and concentrate on their notes, that just needs to go from inspiration. Or you could be the green personality that is just digging into everything and they need to know every single detail. Because if you lead from front, or if you lead from behind, or if you lead from the side, or if you lead as a yellow personality, you're supporting those that wants to lead. And I'm grateful that we've got many of those in the team that just
Such a
lifts
blessing.
people
You are
up.
such a blessing.
Yes, all the time. Well, then in all of those cases, you can win because you here work with duplication and multiple personalities in multiple levels of your organization. And eventually, as a team, you can become successful. So why don't everyone lead?
Well, first of all, I don't believe that people don't lead because they can't. I believe that sometimes it's a lack of a committed decision. Sometimes it's a lack of maybe time investment in the business. Sometimes it's really that you don't necessarily understand what you need to do to create those results with that time that you're currently investing in the business. And one of the things that I'm 100% sure of is that sometimes it's a lack of hunger, right? Or maybe a clarification of what your hunger truly is. That's why I so much believe in clarifying your goals for this upcoming year, that you truly do know what drives you. What is that why that makes you cry? What is those things that you want to achieve during this specific year? You know, in Orrin Woodward and Chris Brady's Launching a Leadership Revolution, they talk about something they call the trilateral leadership ledger, where they say that your leadership is really defined by three things: your level of character, your skills, or the way you master the task of the current profession that you're in, and then how you conduct the relationships around you. And I think that when it comes to character, it starts with hunger. What are you truly hungry to achieve? And a lot of people, they have a misunderstanding of hunger, where they believe that hunger is when I need something. Now, needing things doesn't necessarily make you hungry, right? And I think this is very important, because there is a big difference between I want to do something, and I should do something. One has a positive context to it. Another thing has a kind of a negative context to it. So, and starvation is obviously not the hunger that you're looking for either. Even though it can get you to a certain point, you will never really break through. But when you truly do know what you really, really want, you know, that thing that is you're passionate about, that really are putting you into those situations where you're willing to step out of your comfort zone to grow, to get that thing, or achieve, or become that person, I really do believe that it all starts with that.
It does, but I'd like to go into a discussion and argue back on behalf of some of the people that might be listening, because some of you might say, well, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. I want to change my situation. I've got great dreams. I've been in this business for a year, or I've been in 6 months, or I've been in 2 years, 5 years. I don't know who you are watching out there, but I know that you might say, well, I'm hungry. I spend the time. I'm doing meetings. I'm struggling all the way through all of these things, and I understand that. And I was gonna have a discussion with myself. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It sounded like I was gonna have a discussion with Hilda, but really, if that's true, then prove it to yourself with the following step. Well, first of all, ask yourself the question: did you enroll 15 people last year? Secondly, ask yourself now in 2023, right now, this year, are you going to enroll 30 people this year? Because if you are hungry and you are stuck, you'd be willing to go all out and do that incredible achievement of just going on a crazy role of building the business.
Absolutely.
By enrolling new people into the business, by getting personal customers every week, by helping your team get personal customers every single week, and enroll is in the team. Because that's truly hunger. Hunger shows up in the results.
Yeah, and also and specifically, I would say in your actions. And one of the things that is also important to remember in this process of creating your hunger is that a lot of people, they struggle with their communication. What they are what their target is, or what they want to achieve. And when you find those things that you can and you can manage to communicate it in an inspiring way, where people understand that it's not just something that you're going to fill your pocket with, but it's something that we can achieve together, then I think that a lot of people will also follow the person that is communicating that. Now, one of the things that I do believe is important in this subject is that it starts with hunger. But then there is another step that is equally important, I would say, and that is, how are you willing to change? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, becoming honorable is the word, because they teach the 3 H's of character. And I've seen people recruit, and then they recruit 1, they recruit 2, they recruit 5, they sometimes do 15, they've even done 20. But then none of their recruits hits the fast silver, or very few of them. And they don't promote to silver every month, and they don't go gold, and they don't get pro teams and top teams in their team, which means that they continue to doing an action because they're hungry. So those people are truly hungry. It's not lack of hunger, but when the outcome isn't good, they don't change their behavior. They're not teachable. They're not able to inspire people. They're not able to get people, when they get set back, to have them make their comeback.
And let me just jump in there, because one of the things that I very often feel is that some people, when I start to teach about this principle of being honorable, a lot of people would say, well, this is the area where I'm the best. I'm listening every single day to go core to other things, that makes me more skilled in this. I'm reading, I'm good, and I have coaches around me, but still they don't break through. And what do you think then is lacking in this process?
Well, they take in information. I would even say that maybe they even want to change in some way, but they don't want to transform. I've heard this argument so many times, but if I do that, Orion, if I say that, I don't sound like myself. Well, I'll tell you straight to your face. Well, if you want to get results and you're not having the results, maybe you don't have to sound like yourself today. Maybe you have to sound like the better version of yourself. The one that is elevated, the one that went to the next level, the one that became different. Because I can tell you for sure, if I continued with my leadership, where I was never elected to be first at anything, if I continued with the personality that I had back then, I would not be sitting here.
Yeah, I can relate so much to that, during these last...
You changed me so much. Without you, I'd be miserable.
I can tell you, honey, you changed me.
I'd be sitting in a fisherman's boat out here looking up at you at this beautiful resort.
I think that we've been good for each other. And obviously that is also very important. Also, when you're building your team, you have to be good for each other. You have to make sure that you're elevating each other to the next level. But it's all really it's so really profound, this thing with being honorable. It's really about your willingness to be shaped, to be formed into a better you.
Yes, when you look yourself in the mirror, you're going to say, oh, wow. That's the new version of me. I like that better. In fact, very often I see this. People come into the business, and I've now gotten to the age of 47. So I like, when I started out, I couldn't imagine like that being 47
Remember, there
years
is
old.
a few people watching that's a little older.
I know, and I've got a point just about that. But very often I see people my age.
Yeah.
And then they come into the business a certain way, and then 2-3 years later, or maybe 5-6 years later, or even into their 50s, and now they look like they're just beginning their 40s, because when they got honorable, when they changed and became the better version of themselves, it's actually even visible on the outside. You look better because you feel better on the inside. And whatever is growing inside of you will manifest on the outside of you.
I think that we covered also this area quite well during the Leader School in Oslo this previous year, where or in my opening talk, I remember talking about that it's all in also the way you manage to renew yourself. And to get up to that top of the mountain, you can't really continue to do the same thing. Yes, actions is going to get you to a certain point, taking one step at a time. You know, you will eventually get there, but you have to think, how can I grow? How can I get better? And I think that that has been one of our probably most important steps to getting to where we are today, is that we've had constantly those discussions. So we did that. It didn't really work out. How can we develop? How can we get better next time? So having that critical discussion with yourself as well as the people around you, I really do believe is one of the most fundamental things to create that growth and build that character. But there is one more.
But before we move on,
Okay.
I just say I'm jealous of you today, because you have this beautiful dress on and I've got this shirt on and it's 29 degrees and I'm getting all sweaty.
Oh, now I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Get more
Yeah,
sweat.
so there is benefits to being a woman.
Yeah,
Like, I
a
could have
lot
had
of
that.
benefits to being a woman.
I believe you. So we've got hunger.
Yes.
We've got Hannibal, and then what's the last part? Because I've seen people being hungry, people growing, changing, truly putting in change, but they're still not getting there.
Well, the last stage is how honorable you are. And I think that this is obviously also very important in the equation. And most people are probably good at getting, if you have children, your kids to school in time. Maybe you're good if you have a job, you're good at doing the work that your boss expects you to do. But here is the big question. Do you honor your words to yourself? Now, if you say that you're going to build Zinzino, if you say that you're going to do this business as a professional, you're going to build to active diamond, you're going to go to crown, black crown, and from there on, continue the journey. You know, do you do the things that is actually getting you there? Are you making those calls that you know is important to schedule the appointments to recruit those people? Are you prioritizing the urgent things, or do you manage to prioritize those things that truly makes a difference in your business growth?
Yeah, because this happens all the time. People say, oh, this year, Oriane, I'm going to be the top recruiter. I'm going to get 50. I'm going to go on that trip, you know, or you're going to qualify the director trip, or I'm going to sponsor 10 people, or this month I'm going to bring in 3, or, and then they say that, and they say they're going to be diamond, but then I see already by the 14th of the month, they're flattening out and they're curving down their activity because they don't manage to honor their word when it gets tough. And that's the last part of character. You got to be hungry, so you got to want it. You got to really feel that, okay, this is as important to me as nearly air. Well, the minute it becomes as important as to take your next breath, you're going to be honoring, or then you're going to be hungry, and then you got to be changing. So if it doesn't work, you PDCA, you plan to check and adjust. You PDCA, you plan to check and adjust, and then you honor your word. But sometimes you don't make it, even though you honor your word, but you fight until the last minute, and then you fight the next day and you try to backdate. You don't give up, and then you continue the next month with the same goal, and you don't stop before you achieved it, because then you honored your word, you just didn't hit the time frame. So this is the character.
Now, can I just jump in there? Because I think that the last thing that you said there is very, very important. Because when you feel that it's a long way to go, the magic is in how do you speak to yourself? What are you reminding yourself about? Now, I have to say, and I'm going to be a little bit vulnerable here, because we're in the Maldives, beautiful place, you know, my dream destination. And yesterday, I can tell you guys, I wasn't so positive because, you know, 2 days ago, our girls got chicken pox.
I hope it's 3 days ago, because then it's one less day.
Maybe it's 3, we're counting, you know. But yesterday, Sarah, our second one, she was feeling so bad. And today, she has chickenpox all over her body, her face, and her mouth. Same also with Rebecca, a little less on her. But I said to Orion yesterday, I don't know if I'm going to do this interview. I don't know if I managed to record these different talks because, it's just too much. We have all of these incredible leaders flying in from all of the different countries that has done a remarkable job. And then we have our kids here and they're just filled with chickenpox, screaming for their mama constantly.
Yeah, and I had this moment, I think it was like 4:32 in the morning. I was with Sarah. She was waking up. She said, I have to go to the bathroom. And she went to the bathroom. And then as she was standing there, she watched herself in the mirror.
Gosh.
And she started crying.
Yeah.
And she said, chicken pox had spread all over my face. And I had to run out, pick her up, and calm her down and comfort her because she was so sad.
Yeah.
But
And
in the middle of those moments, we either honor what we said we would
Yeah.
do, or we have to reschedule and we honor what we said we would do later on. And both is okay.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in there and say again that later the same evening I thought, I'm so foolish. Obviously, the reason why we are here is because of our why. It's because of our dream. We have this big, bold vision. We're going to achieve 1 million customers, 20 million customers, 100 million customers. And yes, of course I'm going to do this interview because it's a part of the journey. But when you're in the middle of a challenge where you feel set back, where you feel that, why is this happening? You have to really remind yourself about those dreams. And by reminding yourself about those dreams, you manage also to keep your word for yourself.
Yeah, and my coaching last night was all about we're not perfect. We've all got things to work on. But really, how we build respect for ourselves is by building our character, is by feeding our hunger. So what makes you more hungry? What makes you dream bigger? Then always working on not only learning, but actually changing, being humble, taking the new lessons, making them your own, becoming that better person, and then honor your word, fight to honor it. And if you say something that was wrong, you walk it back, you renegotiate. If you promise your team something and you can't deliver, you make a new arrangement so that you eventually end up through renegotiation also honoring your word. And then we build character, and we should say, well, if you've got character, then for sure you will just build the biggest business out there.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that is important when it comes to that is that you build your habits, because it's all in our habits. Now, we either have bad habits or we have good habits.
Yeah, bad habits is easy.
Very easy to
Pick them
develop.
up like this, whatever it is.
So difficult to live with. Good habits are a little bit more difficult to develop, but a lot easier to live with. And I think that this is crucial when it comes to character, because it's really in those things that we form our character. And it's when we then build our character, we also see things bloom around us. It's like the spring, when you build your character.
It's the law of attraction.
Yes.
You attract people to you that wants to be around people with a certain character.
Yeah, and character is really about how do you love yourself? What is your self-worth? What is your self-esteem like? How do you build your self-confidence? And like I said, it's like the spring. When you build your character, everything blossoms around you. Your relationships, your spiritual life, your business results, your friendships, maybe your physical health. And
it's your self-image.
Yeah, it's your self-image. And eventually you become the person that people want to follow, that people look up to. But again,
so leading then. Am I doing the interview or are you doing
I don't
the
know
interview?
who's doing the interview by now. We're winging this.
But leading is that you have your character, and that's multiplied by your skills, which is multiplied by your relationships.
So in other words, who you are multiplied with what you know, multiplied with whom you know.
And also the positioning that you have in the relationships to who you know. So if you've got a good character or a strong character, you have a very big head start. But if you've somebody that is just the perfect personality and everyone likes them, but they have no skills, what happens then?
Well, the results doesn't come, right?
Yeah, because you got to have well, you'd for sure from your inner circle get some customers. And you'll get lots of customers easily. But building the business is more than just getting good relationships around you, following you. You also got to develop new relationships, and the people that you don't know eventually follow you. So the skills that needs to be trained is the sales skills, it's recruiting skills, it's the product knowledge. Just your testimonial will get you far, but it won't teach your people how to tell their testimonial. So you need the product skills to do that. You've got the you've touched on that compensation plan skills. And I read somewhere in your diary that you loved numbers, Hilda, that you were just that born numbers person.
I'm not, you know. Actually, my son is teaching me for that. He's like, Daddy is so much better than you when it comes to numbers, Mama.
And then he says that, but my mom is so much better than you, Daddy, and everything else.
But I think, again, you know, even though that hasn't been, you know, my major advantage, I decided I'm going to be good at this. I'm going to learn the comp plan. So I learned the comp plan. And I think that it's again, it's a matter of a decision. So what you said is that sales skills is important, recruiting skills is important. You have to learn how to enroll people into your business. Then commission plan, you have to learn how to learn the commission plan yourself, calculate that for yourself, as well as also teach your team to do that. And then it's a matter of the product. How do you really understand the product? How do you teach the product to others? And then there is one more, which is how do you master the knowledge around this specific profession? Why do you think that is so important?
Well, I think that is important because unless you really understand why what we're doing is a brilliant thing to do, you will maybe question it because you will encounter different people. And the last part here is those people skills, you know, or the X factor in the people. Who do you know and how do you know them? But they could bring you doubt. They could bring you disappointments. They could bring you stories that are not uplifting. Sometimes a motivational speaker has said, people are like elevators. You walk into them and they either bring you up or they bring you down, unless you have that X factor in the relationship where you decide which floor you're going to.
You become the thermostat and not the thermometer. I think that is very important.
That's another one,
Yeah.
Which is a brilliant example of what we're discussing there. But what I think is so important is to understand how we elevate people, because what we do for our customers, and remember now, our customers is first and foremost ourselves, our kids, our mom and dad, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, or siblings, all of the people that are close to us, and we bring them health through the products. We bring them an additional safety net. It doesn't mean that nothing will ever go wrong. Then you misunderstand the point about nutrition and healthy foods, but it's about the extra buffer. So maybe it was supposed to be this bad, but instead it becomes this bad. And that's what people got to understand. Maybe you were supposed to in 10 years, but then instead it becomes in 20 years. Or like myself, I was sick. I had some severe problems with my intestinal system, and I was reversed back to normal. And now it's 10 years already. Maybe I can keep normal for another 10 years. Then I got 20 years more of life, even if I got ill again at 57. But of course, I hope that it will be 97 and 107 and so
120.
on. 120, and then we'll
continue from there on.
Let's continue, invent something new. But that's what we do for our customers. And then for the partners, it's a whole nother level. Yes, it's about health, but it's definitely about creating an extra income opportunity, and then eventually creating a wealth opportunity where you can be beyond or go beyond what you actually dreamed about. And I can tell you that where we are today is beyond the dreams that I had when we were starting out.
In the beginning, yes. And I think that that's also a part of the innovation of yourself, where you, as for when you get to a level, you have to look at what's the next level. And obviously, some people, they would argue back and say that, well, you know, I would be perfectly happy at that level, which is okay. You know, we all have different dreams. But I think that for us, at least, it's been a stretch. Like when we get to one point, we want to stretch to the next one. We want to stretch to the next one. And what really brings me joy when it comes to this is to see all of the people that gets their life changed. You know, obviously you touch on it with your story. I have my story that many of you have heard, so I don't need to necessarily go into that. But there is so many incredible stories, both product-wise as well as business-wise, that is just bringing tears to my eyes and makes me want to continue and continue and continue.
Yes.
But
So-
when it comes to the relationship part, you know, I think that there is a lot of okay. No. When it comes to the relationship part, I think that this is something that we all have to work on. Like, how do you get in contact with new people? How do you keep your old relationships alive?
and grow them.
And grow them, not necessarily be stuck on the level that you
and
were at.
change your position in the relationship.
True, true. How do you get how fast you manage to build a connection, you know, with people that maybe were higher on your list when you get started, which is also very important.
Yeah, which is something that I learned, was that if I had a conversation with somebody, and then I would read 5 more books on the subject that we had a conversation about, when I had the next conversation with the same person, they changed. They got, wow, because they saw me growing in knowledge, saw me becoming more competent, and then they had more of a respect in the same relationship. And then by 2 years, 5 years, when my results in the business grew, they wanted to join, even though in the beginning they might be the ones that thought, no, I don't want to follow Orion.
Yeah, and I think in this this specific context, it's also important to remind yourself we have 2 ears, one mouth, right? And sometimes people ask me, why this person here in the business, why is he doing so well? Or this gal here, why is she doing so well? She must know something special, you know, must be some magic to what he or she is doing. But very often it comes down to this. They are extraordinarily good at asking questions. They're good at asking questions to their prospect when they're doing a presentation. They're good at listening. They're good at filling the person's need instead of trying to just transfer their own need. And then they are good at finding those key things with the people that they have in their team so that they can help them grow and help them achieve their next level by actually focusing on their strengths and improving their weaknesses. So what I usually do every single year is that I would grade myself from 1 to 10 on each area. And then I would write down the 1, 2, and 3 things that I believe that I can improve on in character, in task, and in relationship. And by being a little bit more clear around this has actually helped me a lot in making the plan for the year for myself and how I can actually work on the different areas that I need to improve on to grow my results. And actually the way I see it, character is your personal development, while your professional development is how you develop your skills, as well as also those relationship areas that is important to actually build the results that you want.
I like very much what you're saying, Hilda, because one of the things that I just got the other day very clearly is that most people are just one skill away, one new knowledge away from doubling their income.
True.
And if you get one skill at character or one upgrade at character, then you learn one more skill to perfect one more skill, and then you build one more relationship. That might even double and double again your income. And if you do this on an annual basis, it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Actually, on earlier, we made a kind of a benchmark, I remember, when we were teaching about this, where we said that An average director would usually score a sum of 50. An average crown would usually score around 100. And then from there on, president, as an example, would be 300. And I think that one of the things that very often happen when you score yourself is that either you score yourself way too high or you score yourself way too low. So you got to be a little bit careful when it comes to this. Like 10 is the absolute max, like the best in this profession when it comes to skills. 10 on character would be, well, for me, Jesus, you know. So you have to really understand that, you know, there is areas for us all to grow in when it comes to this. But now, if we're going to sum it all up, there is one thing that is very, very important, and that is leadership is about action.
The fact is that you're not growing unless your results is growing. And this is just very profound, that if you want to measure how much you grew this year, yes, you can look at some of those things and you might grade yourself better in some of the areas, but eventually the results will follow because the inside of you will be manifested on the outside of you. And we've got some challenges for people here in January because this is the kickoff of the year and we want to have an absolutely amazing 2023. So I want people to focus on four things. So number one would be right now, just after this, when we have a break or just after the convention is ending,
Book 10 meetings.
or at least one meeting. 10 meetings would be great. But, okay, so some of you go for 10 meetings, but everyone commits to book one meeting immediately, because when you bring yourself into action, you start changing. You start overcoming the things that are stopping you. You overcome that fear. And then decide this week
to enroll one contact.
And then this month,
you want to move one rank up, or at least, you know, during this quarter, make a plan for yourself, make a plan together with your leaders to move one rank up. Imagine what can happen during this whole year, the next 365 days, if you just started this year tremendously well.
Yeah, we've got 200% ECB, so it's possible to do it this month. And I wanted to be bold. I know we agreed on this quarter, but I want people to get, I want to see success and see people win. So maybe by the end of the quarter, there are 2 ranks up, but commit to 1 rank up this quarter and go for it. Try to do it this month. And number 4,
commit to continue to work on the giant within you. I really do believe that it all starts on our inside. How do we work on our thinking? How do we work on our self-esteem? How do we work on our self-confidence? And when you build that character, you build that hunger, the willingness to be shaped, to reinvent yourself, to keep the words that you have for yourself, then eventually your results comes, because you're always a reflection of your most dominant thoughts.
Yeah, and there is seeds of greatness on the inside of you. And when those grow, you will go and the people around you will go and see that you're amazing. We love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for being a part of Zinzino, and let's make a difference in this world together.